It's safe to say that One Piece has more than its fair share of top tiers. However, one of the frustrating parts about this is that we haven't seen most of these guys go all out, and we have to hypothesize their true strength. There's many abilities you can use to rise to the top, but one of the techniques that is valued more than probably anything else is Conqueror's Haki. Not something you could obtain through training, but something you need the mental fortitude to unlock and grow stronger. Mihawk is one of the names always brought up in this topic, especially with his rival being Shanks. Many people have questioned whether or not Mihawk has Conqueror's Haki, and in today's video, I'll be going over just that. What's up guys, my name is Vertics, and if you enjoy videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I put out quality content like this weekly, you won't want to miss. Just like I did in my Sanji video, I have to go over the qualifications needed to be a Conqueror's Haki user. For starters, you need to set your dreams at a high standard and be determined on accomplishing those goals. Luffy and Zoro are two very big examples of this, constantly claiming that they will be at the top, whether that's Luffy being the future pirate king or Zoro being the future strongest swordsman. They have never looked back on their ambitions and would rather die than give up. The difference here though is that Mihawk isn't as loud and open about his desires like the majority of Conqueror's Haki users are. Many people are quick to point this out. He doesn't seek the One Piece or has a crew trying to take over the world. He's just a man trying to live the way he deems fit. When the warlord system was abolished, Mihawk was forced into an uncomfortable position, which was to join a crew with people he's not particularly fans of. With this though, he can have them look out for and fight the Navy for him, or he could have went through even more of a hassle and do it all himself. The entire reason he joined the warlords was to get the Navy off his ass and live peacefully. He never wanted to take down the government or Yonko crews, which is why he questions Buggy for wanting to fight the rest of the emperors. Now, while he certainly doesn't have a high ambition, that's because he already obtained what he was looking for, to become the world's strongest swordsman. It's stated that before he gained his title, he would constantly challenge new strong opponents for the love of battle. I mean, the guy went around and challenged all the swordsmen of his era and proved he was the strongest. What more could the guy want? When Zoro obtains the title, I imagine him living very similar to Mihawk after he helps Luffy become the Pirate King. The dream that gives this guy Conqueror's Haki is defeating Mihawk and gaining his title. Not everyone that is a conqueror has dreams like Luffy or Rocks. Whitebeard wanted to create a family and didn't even go after the One Piece when Roger offered him a free path to obtain it. In fact, the guy had a title himself, being the world's strongest man. Rayleigh is another example, as he doesn't even have a dream. The guy lives just like Mihawk himself, sitting around on Sabaody and drinking with no real ambition. In fact, he's not looking for a strong opponent to take him down, he's just trying to live his life out. He's even worse than Mihawk when it comes to that. Chinchou, who was complete fodder, had some treasure underneath a frozen continent he could open up, and I'm more than sure that Mihawk could achieve the same feat and then some. There are a few others I can go over, but I'm sure you guys get my point. A lot of people don't take into account that Mihawk already achieved his dream, and he's just waiting for someone worthy to take his place. We know the names for many of the other top tiers blades, but they pretty much never mention it. Mihawk respects the craft, and I believe that it's the entire reason he chose to train Zoro in the first place. Even though Zoro seeks to take Mihawk down, he would rather it be Zoro than someone who has no care for swordsmanship and what it means. I imagine Ryuma, who is constantly compared to Zoro, being similar to this since Wano was so protective of his blade when Zoro arrived. Ryuma, who is a legend seemingly connected to the Void Century and Joy Boy, more likely than not possessed Conqueror's Haki, and just like Mihawk, deeply cherished the way of the sword. They are also the two confirmed Black Blade users, something that legends like Roger, Rocks, Whitebeard, etc. haven't been able to accomplish. With Zoro bound to be the strongest to ever wield the blade and also become a Black Blade user himself, I just know that Oda is sitting on a crazy Mihawk Conqueror's Haki flex. Mihawk may not be your typical Conqueror's Haki user, but when you really get down to it, you could say the same for a lot of already confirmed users. There's a lot who think the ability should be highly limited, and I feel that it gets in their way of judging whether or not certain characters have or will gain the ability. Now, there's a weird notion that you need to want the One Piece or control the world to obtain this technique, and I feel like a lot of people define Conqueror's Haki on what they want it to be, rather than how it actually works. I said this in my Sanji video, and with Mihawk, there's always weird exceptions people like to give him. When Mihawk vs Shanks is up for discussion, a decent amount of people that lean towards Shanks define swordsmanship and Haki as two different things, and for them, I just have to ask, when Zoro fights throughout the New World, how does he defeat his opponents? By applying Haki onto his blades. I've seen people try to say that guys like Shanks, Roger, and Rocks use blast-like attacks with their sword slashes, so it's different from swordsmanship, but this again is not the case. Both Zoro and Mihawk have more prevalent blast-like attacks than those guys do. In fact, during Marineford, Mihawk fired his no-named attack at Whitebeard's ship, and it was a larger scale sized wave than anything those three have shown so far. And yes, it was blocked by Jozu, but this guy's sole purpose is to tank attacks, being one of the most durable characters in the verse, and yet he's still harmed from this attack. I'm not trying to say that it's stronger than moves like Divine Departure, but rather they fall under the same category of swordsmanship. Another man I wanted to bring up is Oden, who when fighting Kaido was able to scar him once he applied Conqueror's Haki onto his blades, just like every other top tier swordsman does. While some have attempted to slander Mihawk by saying he didn't teach Zoro ACOG, that's because it's an ability you just cannot train, just as Rayleigh did not train Luffy's Conqueror's Haki. The only way to strengthen this ability is to use it in battle over time, getting closer and closer to accomplishing your goals and gaining a stronger mental will. In fact, when Zoro and King are fighting, they have a quick conversation where Zoro's flashback played where he states that he's going to become the world's strongest swordsman, in which King replies, "So, you've also got kingly ambitions, huh? If wanting to become the strongest swordsman makes Zoro a conqueror, how does Mihawk, who is the strongest swordsman, not have the ability?" When Shanks had a chat with Whitebeard before Marineford, Newgate went on to talk about the battle between Shanks and Mihawk, where he stated it was still fresh in his head. If a battle years later is still being talked about and fresh in Whitebeard's mind, then they have to possess insane strength and more likely than not, Conqueror's Haki. We all know that Shanks is the poster boy of Conqueror's Haki users, so why wouldn't his rival have it? In fact, if you love Shanks that much, wouldn't it be better to be on the side that Mihawk has Conqueror's Haki so you can say he fought against a stronger opponent? It's weird how when any other two top tiers fought each other, we all knew they are going to be using Haki, but some act as if when Mihawk and Shanks had their duel, that they made this secret agreement to just not use Haki here. It never made any sense. Why would the guys with no devil fruit powers and fight strictly with Haki being infused into their blades not use Haki when they fought? When Zoro and Mihawk have their big fight at the end of the series, this guy isn't going to tell Zoro, "Yo bro, don't use Haki. I taught you it for 2 years, but it means nothing." What would be the point of a 2-year training arc where Zoro is strictly learning to infuse Haki into his blades if swordsmen like Mihawk and Shanks just apparently don't fight with it? You see how that just couldn't make a lick of sense. In 2 years straight, guys, that's a longer time period than Zoro has been with the Straw Hats for. On top of this, when he fought Shanks, he wouldn't have been able to use Future Sight since Shanks cancels it out, meaning that Mihawk would have had to rely on Ryu and more likely than not, Conqueror's Haki to fight and defeat Shanks. If you're saying that Mihawk doesn't have Conqueror's Haki, you're by vice versa saying he beat Shanks with only Ryu. By attempting to downscale Mihawk, saying he isn't a Conqueror's Haki user, you're also hurting the Shanks agenda. After all, he to this day is still the strongest swordsman in the world, and this is something backed up pretty much every time Oda is talking about him. The guy is the wall Zoro will break down to become the strongest swordsman of all time, and the man that defeated Shanks to become the current strongest swordsman. And with all I've stated, I think it's clear that Mihawk is definitely a hidden Conqueror's Haki user. Well, that's it for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps with the algorithm, and it's very appreciated. As always, shout out to Tiberius for the thumbnail. He makes quality thumbnails for me all the time, and if you would like some of your own, hit him up on Twitter, link in the description, as well as my Twitter at Vertics_ for more of my takes. And without further ado, you guys can get out of here.